The skies over Darnix 5 turned red before the humans even landed. The alien world was supposed to be untouched by war, a quiet diplomatic site for peace talks between the galactic houses. But when the human delegation arrived with only one Garda, tall, quiet man named Kael, they were met with more than just sharp words. The Queen of House Velithar was already waiting, sitting on a stone throne carved into the roots of a tree that had lived 1,000 years. Her skin shimmered blue like polished metal, and her eyes were full of pride. She looked at the human sword hanging from Kael's belt and chuckled without hiding her sharp teeth. Her warriors stood in perfect rows behind her, dressed in black armor and carrying blades longer than their own arms. They whispered when Kael stepped forward. His weapon was smaller, older, and didn't glow or hum like theirs. It looked like it belonged to a museum, not a battlefield. Still, Kael didn't flinch. He simply stood beside the human ambassador and waited, as if he knew something they didn't. The queen leaned forward. "Your people send one soldier with one stick of metal?" she said loudly. "Do you expect him to fight our army with that toy?" Her words drew soft laughter from her soldiers. Kael's face didn't move. He stayed quiet, his hand resting on the hilt of his worn sword. That silence made the laughter stop quicker than expected. Something about him felt wrong, but not weak. Then the ground shook. From the far cliffs, black smoke began rising, and distant roars echoed across the valley. It wasn't human tech or alien scouts. Something else had come. Something that didn't care about borders or honor. From under the ground, old machines awoke, and creatures made of steel and bone emerged from hiding. Everyone stopped talking when the first beast appeared over the ridge, its jaw opening wider than a hover tank. Even the queen rose to her feet. As her guards drew their weapons, the ambassador turned to Kael. "I thought this was a peaceful mission," he whispered. Kael gave a slow nod. "So did I," he said calmly. Then he stepped forward, past the queen's guards, and pulled his blade from its sheath. It made no sound, no glow, no hum. Just the soft ring of old steel meeting air. The queen watched him closely, her proud smirk fading as he held the sword in both hands, not like a soldier, but like a storm was about to begin. A beast the size of a shuttle dropped into the valley, roaring. The alien guards charged forward, firing their plasma spears and swinging their gleaming swords. But the beast didn't slow. It crushed two of them with a single stomp and knocked a third into a tree. Kael didn't run. He walked straight toward it, his eyes locked, his grip steady. The queen opened her mouth to call him back, but she didn't. Something in his movement kept her frozen. Kael's blade cut through the air once, and the beast's front leg gave way. Not with fire or light, but with raw, perfect force. The creature stumbled, then screamed as Kael spun again. One slice, then another, faster than anyone could see. It wasn't just strength. It was something deeper, older, like the sword had its own will and Kael was just its hand. The creature collapsed in a heap of sparks and smoke. Silence fell over the valley again. The queen blinked slowly, her lips parting. What? What is that blade? She asked, not laughing anymore. Kael looked at her, then returned the sword to its sheath. "It's not the blade," he answered. "It's the hand that wields it." More roars came from the cliffs. Dozens more beasts appeared. The queen looked at her guards, then back at Kael. "If we fight together, perhaps we live," she said quickly. Kael nodded once. "Then give the order," he replied. She raised her voice and shouted in her native tongue. Her warriors formed. Ranks behind Kael now, not in front of him. The human stood at the center of the field, surrounded by alien soldiers who no longer saw him as a joke. And the queen, once amused by his blade, now watched him like he was the only thing that could keep her world from burning. The battlefield burned as more beasts crawled from the deep trenches of Darnix 5. Fire lit the skies and screams echoed. between the cliffs. The Queen of House Velithar stood just behind Kael, her guards forming a loose circle around them. They had never seen these creatures before, not in any of their ancient scrolls or military reports. These weren't machines, they were something worse. They were forgotten punishments from an old war, buried alive but never truly dead. Kael didn't wait for orders. He stepped forward again, gripping his old sword with both hands. The Queen's warriors followed him, unsure if they were protecting him or being protected by him. One of her captains, a tall warrior named Draxon, spoke quietly to her. "Your Majesty, this human, he fights like a ghost made flesh." The Queen didn't answer. She was still watching Kael's blade, still thinking about the way it moved with him as if it had a mind of its own. A second beast leapt from the high ledge, slamming down into their formation. Half the Queen's guard scattered, but Kael didn't move. His sword flashed, one clean arc through the air, and the beast's head rolled across the ground like a fallen helmet. Blood sprayed, but not a single drop touched him. Draxon looked on, stunned. "No human should be able to do that," he whispered. More beasts charged. Kael's breathing slowed. Every move he made was measured, controlled, like he had trained for this very war. The Queen's blade, resting on her hip, had not been drawn yet. She was a warrior too, but for the first time, she felt unsure. She had seen strength before. She had crushed champions and burned empires, but Kael was something else. Not just strength, but stillness. Not just speed, but purpose. The Queen finally drew her blade, its surface glowing purple. It sang in the air, a song of war and power. She moved beside Kael, her voice low. "You don't fight like a soldier. What are you?" Kael struck another beast without looking at her. "I was forged in a war your people forgot," he said. "I don't carry this blade for show. I carry it to survive." Her breath caught. She had mocked his weapon. Now she saw it up close, dented and chipped, yet far more deadly than any of her ceremonial swords. It was not just a weapon, it was history. And it had killed before. The beasts came in pairs now, testing their front lines. Kael and the Queen fought back to back. She blocked a strike aimed at him. He returned the favor with a clean kill that saved her neck. The alien guards rallied around them, screaming war cries in their native tongue. Behind the chaos, the human ambassador spoke into a cracked communicator. "Earth Command, we have hostile non-council entities on Darnix 5, requesting emergency extraction." But static replied. The sky had been jammed. No one was cunning. They were on their own. And only Kael seemed to understand the truth of it. As the last of the current wave fell, the Queen turned to Kael. "That blade, it isn't just steel, is it?" He nodded. "It's from Earth's first blade forge. The core is forged from a meteorite that fell during our oldest war. It's not just a weapon. It's a story that refuses to end." She was quiet, eyes fixed on the sword. "Why didn't your people send an army?" Kael looked at her, his voice calm. "Because sometimes one blade in the right hands is enough." Her lips curled into a smile, not mocking this time, but something closer to respect. "You speak like a king." He shook his head. "No, I speak like someone who's seen too many die from pride." The ground rumbled again. A deeper growl came from beneath the soil. The Queen ordered her troops to brace. "Something bigger is coming," she said. Kael closed his eyes and lowered his sword for a moment. "Then I'll need my second one." The Queen blinked. "You have another?" Kael reached for a second hilt hidden behind his back. The first sword was ancient. The second was worse. It pulsed faintly, not with energy, but with memory. When he pulled it free, the air shifted. The Queen felt it immediately. Her guards stepped back without thinking. This new blade looked simple, but something about it was wrong. It made the ground tremble slightly, and it seemed to drink the light around it. Kael held it carefully, like it didn't want to be touched. For too long, the queen asked softly, "What is that?" Kael didn't answer immediately. Then he spoke. "This one doesn't silence monsters. It silences gods." The air around Kael's second blade was thick. It didn't glow like alien tech or hum like the queen's sword. It was quiet. Too quiet. Even the wind seemed to stop moving. The queen took a step back without realizing it. Her guards looked to her for command, but her lips stayed shut. That blade carried something heavy, something none of them could name. Not fear exactly, but weight. Like it was older than their empires. Kael held it with both hands now. His breathing changed. Slower. Deeper. He looked more focused but also distant. Like his mind had entered some old memory. The queen saw his shoulders tighten. She asked carefully, "How many times have you used it?" Kael replied without turning, "Only once. And it cost everything." A distant rumble answered him. From the far edge of the valley, the earth cracked open. Black mist poured out like poison smoke, and the shape that rose from it didn't walk, it glided. It was larger than the others, twice the size. Its face was covered in living armor, and its eyes burned yellow. The queen's guards stepped back. Even Draxon whispered, "That is no beast. That is a nightmare." Kael stepped forward alone. The queen reached out, grabbing his arm. "This is not your war. Why fight for us?" He looked her in the eyes, his voice steady. "Because if this thing reaches your cities, it won't stop. It will spread. Then it will find Earth. I don't care about your crown. I care about stopping what's coming." His words silenced her. She released his arm and nodded once. "Then we stand with you." Her voice was louder now, strong. Her warriors raised their weapons, though some hands shook. The sky darkened further as the creature let out a deep, hollow roar. Stones cracked, trees split. Birds fell from the sky mid-flight. The queen's lips parted. "What is it doing?" Kael narrowed his eyes. "It's remembering me." The queen didn't understand at first, but Kael didn't explain. He gripped the dark blade tighter. It was part of the war one came from. "I helped bury it. Now it wants revenge." The creature charged, floating just above the ground, its arms like blades, slicing trees before it even reached them. Kael didn't wait. He moved like a shadow, fast and perfect. The second blade met the monster's strike, and for a second, time froze. The impact didn't sound like steel on steel. It sounded like thunder cracking inside the bones. The blast pushed both armies back. Dirt exploded. The queen fell to one knee but kept watching. In that dust, she saw Kael still standing. His blade had split the monster's arm. Not cut it, split it, like it tore the truth out of its body. The creature screamed, but not in pain. It screamed. In rage, its other arm came down, but Kael twisted, ducked, and rose with a slice. The blade moved unnaturally, like it was pulling itself through space. The monster's shoulders split open, spilling black mist. Kael stepped back, breathing harder. Now, the blade glowed faintly for a second, like it had eaten something. The queen rose again. "This is not just a weapon," she whispered. "It's a curse." Kael didn't deny it. "It chooses the hand. And it never chooses twice." Her heart pounded. She had led armies, ended rebellions, and faced traitors in her own court. But she had never stood near anything like this. The monster swung wildly now, less precise, wounded, confused. It backed away, unsure. Kael stepped forward again. "You remember me," he said coldly. "Then remember how this ends." The blade moved like lightning this time, a flash from hip to head. The creature's chest exploded with black smoke. It fell without a cry. Its body didn't collapse, it dissolved, pulled into the ground as if the planet itself rejected it. Silence followed, real silence, the kind that only comes after death. The queen took a step forward, then another. Her guards followed slowly. Kael dropped to one knee, driving the blade into the ground. He stayed there, sweating, eyes shut. She moved toward him and placed a hand on his shoulder. "Is it over?" she asked. Kael didn't answer right away. Then quietly he said, "For now." He stood up, leaving the cursed blade buried in the dirt. "That sword doesn't belong to any world anymore." The queen stared at it. "Then why bring it?" Kael looked her in the eyes. "Because I knew something worse would come. And only a curse can kill a curse." The queen didn't speak for a while. Her warriors stood in a wide circle now, watching Kael not with fear, but with awe. He had saved their lives, saved her. And all with a blade she once laughed at. She finally broke the silence. That weapon silenced a monster. "But you silenced a queen." Kael gave a tired smile. "Then maybe next time you won't laugh so quickly." She looked at him and replied softly, "Next time, I'll stand beside you from the start." Asterisk smoke curled around the fallen field where the monster had died. The cursed blade remained buried, humming softly like it breathed through the soil. Kael stood a few feet away, shoulders heavy but spine straight. The queen watched him from a distance, her mind full of questions. Around them, her guards worked quietly, tending to the wounded, retrieving weapons, and burning what was left of the corrupted bodies. But all eyes returned to Kael when they thought no one was watching. He had done what their entire elite force could not. He had faced something pulled from the shadows of forgotten wars and destroyed it with a weapon that felt alive. But what frightened them most was that Kael didn't seem proud. He looked tired, worn, like every swing of that second sword took a part of his soul. The queen stepped closer, her boots silent on the cracked earth. "You don't celebrate your victory?" she asked. Kael looked at her and shook his head. "Victory doesn't feel like much when the cost is memory." She tilted her head. "What do you remember?" Kael looked away. "Everything that blade was used for before me. Every scream. Every war it ended. Every hand it broke." She was silent. Then she spoke softly. "Your people must think highly of you." Kael's expression didn't change. "My people buried me. Officially, I died years ago in a different war." Her breath caught. "You're a ghost to your own kind?" He nodded. "I volunteered. For something no one else would. That blade isn't given. It's passed when there's no other hope left." The queen looked back at the sword, still sunk in the earth. "Why leave it now?" Kael crossed his arms. "Because it answered once. It might not answer again. And the more I use it, the more I become like what I fight." Her throat tightened. The pride she once wore like armor now felt hollow beside. This man, he didn't fight for glory. He fought because no one else could. That night, their camp was quiet. Fires burned low, and the stars above were sharp and cold. The queen sat alone outside her tent, staring at the sky. Kael walked over and sat beside her without a word. For a while, they just listened to the wind. She finally broke the silence. "I mocked you before I knew you. I thought humans were weak, loud, foolish. But now I think we feared you for the wrong reasons." Kael glanced at her. "Then what should you fear?" She looked into his eyes. "The silence. The part of you that watches, waits, strikes. Only when it matters." He didn't argue. Instead, he asked, "Why did you meet us with warriors instead of diplomats?" Her lips tightened. "Because the other houses said your kind would try to claim our soil. I didn't want to be caught unprepared." Kael leaned back. "And now?" She exhaled slowly. "Now I see what you carry. And I wonder if any of us could survive carrying it ourselves." His voice dropped. "Most can't." For a moment, her gaze softened. "Then you are not most." He turned away slightly. "That's not always a compliment." Suddenly, a horn blew in the distance, 3 short bursts. Kael stood up instantly. So did the queen. A scout came running through the camp, dust trailing behind him. Another wave approaches. But Not beasts, they're ships. Alien house banners. The queen narrowed her eyes. Which house? The scout hesitated. House Velithar. And they are not here to help. Kael stepped beside her. Friends of yours? She shook her head. Rivals. They think we're weakened. They've come to finish what the beast started. Kael glanced at the field where the cursed blade remained. I'm not picking that sword up again, he said firmly. The queen nodded. Then we win this one differently. The camp roared into motion. Soldiers grabbed armor. Cannons were moved into place. Draxon shouted orders from the high rock while the queen climbed to her command post. Kael didn't speak. He simply checked his first sword, the smaller one, the one the queen had once called a toy. This time she didn't laugh. She placed her hand on his shoulder. Let me fight beside you, not behind you. Kael looked at her. That blade you carry, can you use it like I saw today? She smirked. You've seen one dance. Let me show you another. The sound of ships filled the sky. Engines, thrusters, war banners fluttering in the red wind. House Velithar had arrived with full force. They expected to find a broken queen and a shattered army. What they found was Kael. The sky turned silver as the warships of House Velithar hovered over the ridge. Their hulls were black and gold, symbols of domination painted across the wings. Hundreds of armored troops descended in lines, weapons drawn, marching in perfect rhythm. Kael watched from the hilltop beside the Queen of Velithar. Her jaw was tight. She knew this attack had been planned for some time, and now they had come to claim her throne under the excuse of weakness. Kael folded his arms as he studied their formation. They're not here for the beasts, he said. They waited until we were wounded. The queen nodded. House Velithar never spills their own blood when someone else can do it for them. Her voice was calm, but Kael could feel the fire burning behind it. You think they know what we just faced? He asked. No, she replied. And I won't be the one to tell them until they taste it themselves. Kael turned to her. You still have troops, cannons, and the high ground. You can win this. The queen looked down at her soldiers, many still bandaged, others exhausted. Yes, but not without loss. They came to finish me. If I fall, they'll say the throne begged for mercy. Kael raised an eyebrow. You planning to beg? She looked at him coldly. Not even with my last breath. The horns of House Velithar called across the valley. A deep voice echoed through an amplifier. Queen Allura of Velithar, your line is broken. Step down or burn. The queen stepped forward, her own voice fierce and proud. Your banners are lies. Your swords are cowards. Come and see what's left of your courage. The soldiers around her cheered, tired but louder than ever. Kael smiled slightly. Now that sounded like a queen. But even as the queen's words echoed, Kael saw something behind the enemy line. A smaller craft, silent and shaped like a dagger, slid into view. It landed behind a broken ridge. He squinted. That's not one of theirs, he pointed. You see that ship? The queen followed his gaze and frowned. It bears no banner. Kael nodded. That's what worries me. Without waiting, Kael moved downhill, fast and alone. He didn't carry the cursed sword, only the first one, still marked by the beast's blood. He reached the broken ridge in minutes, moving through brush and ash. There, standing beside the strange ship, was a figure in golden armor. Not House Velithar, not Velithar, something else. The figure turned. It was a female, tall, masked, and silent. Kael stopped. You don't belong to this war, he said. The masked warrior tilted her head. Her voice came out smooth and strange. Neither do you, yet here you bleed. Kael kept his sword low. Who are you? She took a step forward. I carry a message. From those who buried the cursed blade. You raised. Kael narrowed his eyes. That blade was buried in silence for a reason, she nodded. And your touch woke things that were not meant to wake. Kael clenched his jaw. What do you want? The masked figure looked toward the Queen's camp. The balance was broken when you entered her world. We are here to restore it. Kael took a step back. By helping House Velithar? The warrior shook her head. No, by ending both sides. Kael's grip tightened. That's not restoring. Balance, that's cleansing. The woman's voice dropped lower. And you will stand in our way? Kael's eyes burned. Every time. She moved suddenly fast and silent like wind between stones. Kael met her strike with steel. Sparks flew. Her blade was strange, double-edged and curved, glowing with golden lines. She struck again, and Kael blocked again. He didn't speak, didn't breathe. Every move he made now was sharp and exact. She was trained, yes, but so was he. Minutes passed in slashes and dust. Kael's blade met hers again and again. Neither gave ground. But she wasn't trying to kill him. She was testing him, and he knew it. After a final clash, she leapt back and stared. Your hand is still steady, she said. Kael's chest rose and fell. And yours still lacks purpose. She didn't answer. Instead, she turned and disappeared. Into the ship. It lifted silently, vanishing into the clouds. Kael returned to the Queen with new fire in his eyes. She looked at him. You fought? He nodded. Someone worse is watching this war. Someone old. They don't want a winner. They want an ending. The Queen didn't flinch. Then we deny them both. She raised her sword again and called her troops into formation. The armies clashed soon after. House Velithar charged with confidence. They had numbers. They had weapons. But they didn't have Kael. He moved through them like a storm. His sword cut down captains and broke their lines. Beside him, Queen Allura fought with elegance and fury. Together they turned the tide. The enemy fled by nightfall. Smoke filled the air, but the Velithar banner still flew. The Queen stood tall, breathing hard, blood on her face but not her own. Kael looked across the field, where shadows still lingered. They'll come again, he said. She nodded. Then let them. This time, I'll be ready with the one they called a ghost. Ash covered the valley like a funeral shroud. The bodies of the fallen lay quiet beneath broken banners, and the wind carried the scent of metal and fire. Kael stood near the hill, where he had fought beside Queen Allura. His sword dripped dry blood. His eyes were locked on the horizon. He knew what was coming. The war with House Velithar was over, but something worse had been stirred, something older than their politics and stronger than any army. The Queen walked toward him slowly, her cape torn, armor cracked, but her posture proud. The people are rebuilding, she said. We've sent out messages to the outer cities. Survivors are returning. Kael nodded. And the dead? She looked down. They'll be honored. We'll not forget who stood and who ran. Kael didn't speak. His thoughts were still with the masked warrior in gold and the words she left behind. He didn't like puzzles, and this one felt like a warning wrapped in silence. Allura turned toward the hill where the cursed blade remained buried. Will you take it again? She asked. Kael shook his head. If I lift it again, it won't let me go, she frowned. But if something worse comes, Kael met her eyes. Then I fight with my own hand. Not the hand of a blade that drinks. Memory. The Queen stepped beside him. Then let's make sure the next fight is one we choose. That night, fires lit the rebuilt camps. Children who had been hidden during the battle came out from shelters. Soldiers sat in circles, some weeping, others drinking quietly. Kael stayed apart, sharpening his sword under the stars. Allura approached him again, this time without armor. She sat beside him, watching the blade. Why do you stay, Kael? The war is over. He didn't look at her. The war is never over. Not for people like me. She leaned closer. You could have left after the first beast. After the cursed blade. After the battle. But you stayed. Why? Kael looked into the fire. Because you stopped laughing. She blinked. What? He turned to her. You mocked my blade. My strength, my silence. But when the real enemy came, you didn't just change your words, you changed yourself. I saw a queen become a warrior. And I saw a warrior become something more. Her breath caught. For once, she didn't speak. Kael stood and she followed. Together, they walked to the old battlefield where the cursed blade still sat buried. The ground around it was cracked, and small plants had already started growing through the ash. This sword is cursed, Kael said softly. But maybe it's only cursed when it's alone. Allura stepped beside him. Then maybe it needs a name, something more than the cursed blade. Kael thought for a moment. Silencer, the queen nodded. Then silencer it is. And may it sleep until needed again. As they turned to walk back, the ground trembled beneath their feet. A deep vibration, not like before. A silent quake felt, not heard. Kael froze. The queen drew her sword without a word. Then, from the sky, a rift opened. Black lightning cracked the clouds, and a ship fell through like a dying star. The ship didn't belong to House Velithar. Or any house, it was smooth, dark, and shaped like a blade itself. From it emerged the golden armored figure once more, and behind her, 6 others. Each held a weapon older than time. The queen whispered, "Are those?" Kael nodded slowly. "Keepers of balance." The masked warrior stepped forward, her voice echoing across the field. "You were warned, blade wielder. The silence has awakened. It seeks to feed again." Kael stepped forward. "Then tell it I'm still here." The warrior lifted her mask this time. Her face was scarred, eyes silver, glowing slightly. "This world is now watched. If your queen chooses the path of violence again, we will return not as judges, but as executioners." The queen stood beside Kael, chin high. "Then hear this. If silence returns, we will not whisper. We will roar." The warriors vanished in light, leaving no trace. Kael looked to the spot where they stood. "They won't stay gone," the queen nodded. "Then let's make this place too loud for them to return." She held out her hand. Kael stared at it. He had walked alone. For so long, too long, he finally took her hand in his. "Together?" she asked. He nodded. Together, months passed. Velithar changed, trade opened, peace talks resumed. And at the heart of the capital, a statue was built. It showed the queen and the human warrior side by side. Her sword pointed skyward, his blade pointed down. Between them, buried in stone, the cursed sword named Silencer remained untouched. Not forgotten, but waiting. Always waiting. Because some wars end with fire, some with peace. But the greatest ones end with a silence that only one blade dares to break.